Dear story lovers, welcome to Malawi Storyteller, where you find different stories, novels, and movie recaps. Please subscribe, share, like, and tell us your thoughts in comments section. The son they abandoned become their biggest regret. Episode 4. The air in the orphanage yard tasted of dry dust and chemical soap. High brick walls trapped the heat, turning the pavement into a furnace. Across the cracked concrete, a dozen children sprinted in chaotic circles, their shouts bouncing off the mortar. Some hung from the chain-link fence, fingers hooked through the mesh, tracking the blur of passing cars on the street beyond. Others huddled in tight, whispering clusters, their heads bent together in shared secrets. None of them ventured toward the far corner. Behind a rusted, motionless swing set, Eli sat alone. He was small, his frame dwarfed by the shadow of the metal frame. He held a splintered stick, dragging the jagged tip through the loose dirt. He carved aimless, intersecting lines, erasing them with his palm and starting again. He did not look up when the heavy iron gate groaned on its hinges. He did not turn when footsteps crunched on the nearby gravel. He kept his head low, his focus locked entirely on the shifting patterns in the dust. He pressed the stick harder into the ground, carving a deep, final groove, and waited for nothing. A couple walked through the open gate, their eyes scanning the yard. They moved past the groups of children, their gazes lingering briefly on the ones who waved or called out. Sarah stopped abruptly near the center of the yard. She gripped the strap of her bag, her knuckles tightening as she looked toward the rusted swing set. She pointed a finger toward the corner where the boy sat. "Why is he by himself?" she asked. The caretaker stood a few paces away, her hands busy smoothing the front of her apron. She did not look at the boy. She kept her eyes fixed on a patch of weeds near her feet. Sarah stepped closer, her voice dropping. "Does no one choose him?" The caretaker let out a long, shaky breath that rattled in her chest. She shifted her weight, looking everywhere but at the corner. "No," she said. "He does not speak. He does not play." She paused, her grip on her apron tightening until the fabric bunched. "People want children who smile back." Sarah walked toward the corner. Her shoes crunched on the gravel, a sharp, rhythmic sound that cut through the yard. She kept her pace slow, deliberate, and stopped 3 feet away. She knelt down, keeping her weight balanced on her heels. "Hello," she said. The word hung in the air. Eli froze. The stick in his hand stopped moving. He did not turn, but his shoulders hiked up toward his ears. He stayed like that for 5 seconds, his body rigid as stone. Then, he slowly lifted his head. His eyes were wide, darting toward her, and then back to the ground. He clutched the splintered stick tightly, his knuckles turning white against the wood. Sarah did not move closer. "What is your name?" she asked. She watched the pulse jump in his neck. He stared at her, his chest rising and falling in shallow, rapid breaths. He opened his mouth, closed it, and then tried again. "Eli," he whispered. He gripped the stick until the wood groaned. Daniel stepped up beside Sarah, his frame casting a long, dark shadow over the dry dirt. He did not speak. He reached into his pocket, his movements slow and measured, and pulled out a small, wooden toy car. The paint was chipped, but the wheels spun freely. He leaned forward and placed it carefully on the ground, just inches from the boy's feet. The yard went silent. A group of children near the fence stopped their game, their heads turning in unison to watch the corner. Eli looked at the toy, his eyes flickering from the smooth wood to Daniel's face, then back to Sarah. Daniel knelt down, his knees pressing into the dust. "Would you like to come home with us?" he asked. The question hung in the air, unmoving. Eli stared at the toy car, then at the iron gate, and finally back at Sarah. His breathing hitched. He didn't answer with words. Instead, his fingers loosened. He dropped the splintered stick. It landed with a soft thud in the dirt. Eli pushed himself up from the dirt. His legs were shaky, unused to the sudden movement, but he found his balance. He took one tentative step, then another, closing the gap between himself and the adults. Sarah held out her hand, her palm open and steady. Eli hesitated for a fraction of a second. his gaze flickering toward the rusted swing set one last time. Then, he placed his small, dirt-streaked palm into hers. The grip was firm, a sudden anchor. Daniel stood, and together, the three of them turned away from the corner. They walked across the cracked pavement, their footsteps crunching in unison. The children near the fence watched them pass. They reached the iron gate. It swung open with a low, metallic groan, revealing the path beyond.